Today's show brought to you in part by our friends over at the New York Racing Association. For the full deep dive into the $1 Pick 6 on Saturday, check out our video over there. We go through all of those races. I also wanted to let you know about some of the other really cool two-day bets that are going on at NYRA. We love to support these bets. We've got the two-day Pick 6 mandatory payout race. Friday, you're going to have the True North, the Belmont Gold Cup, and the New York. And then on Saturday, it's the Jaipur, the Met Mile, and the Belmont Stakes. There's a two-day Pick 4 that connects the Belmont Gold Cup, the New York Stakes, the Manhattan, and the Belmont Stakes. There's also a New York Stakes Met Mile double, which is kind of a cool one. And then there's also a Belmont Gold Cup, Belmont Stakes double, as well as two more, a Filly and Mare double, the Bed of Roses into the Acorn, and the Sprint double, the True North and the Woody Stevens. So very cool stuff. You can check it all out on the NYRA website. I'm going to send out a tweet, and I'll actually pin it. So if you just go to @LoomsBoldly and go to the top, you can check out all that info. Looking forward to a great weekend of racing at beautiful Belmont Park. Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatal. Slightly different surroundings here this morning, not in the Brooklyn bunker. And I think I used to call this room the Brooklyn Salon. I can't remember. I'm basically sitting at the kitchen table. And I'll be back in the bunker later, but just one of these funny things that happens during Belmont week, staying out late, getting up early, forgetting that you double booked your office to allow your wife to ride on the Peloton anyway. You don't need all the details. Suffice it to say, I'm very happy to be back with you and very happy to introduce my first guest, who you know from the fantastic work he does over on Redboard Rewind and also on our Lone Star Park shows, which you're going to be hearing more of this weekend. I'm talking, of course, about at Handy_Capper, aka Spencer Luginbuhl. Spencer, what's up, my man?
Doing all right. Excited to be here. I was up late with multiple Redboard Rewinds last night. Benny South Street, who I know you'll have on later, and also Mike Somich going over some extra Lone Star for the week.
Good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, Benny ended up bailing because he got his days confused. So we are going to have an able sub in Howard Kravets a little bit later in the show. I had teased the idea that Benny was going to be on, but he'll be on soon. Okay. We can't keep him away for too long. Before we dive into the Lone Star Pick 5 on Saturday, very curious to just get a quick thought from you on this Belmont Stakes Day card. Is there a particular race you're really looking forward to betting?
I am super excited to play against Jackie's Warrior out of that last race because everyone was really confused on the buyer. Was it too low? Was it too high? And I said, let's wait and see who runs out of it. Let's see what they run back as. And so far the race is 1 for 4 with 1 second, and the biggest buyer was an 85. So I think that number is spot on. But the bad thing for me is I think the race is a lot worse than the last race they were in, and I can't really find someone to beat them. So I'm kind of just stuck in that little proverbial, grain of cheese, and I'm now the mouse.
That's pretty funny. What about the big one? What thoughts did you have there?
I mean, just essential quality, right? I've been a Hot Rod Charlie fan, obviously, but I just think the way it's lining up, I just think essential quality is probably just the goods in this race.
You know what I need to do is go back and look at our Derby points from the draft and see exactly who's going to win depending on what happens. Now, of course, we still haven't made an official decision. I was tempted to let the Medina Spirit win stand for purposes of the contest, since that's how it paid out pari-mutually, but we don't really have a final decision on that. What do you think? What do you think I should do?
I think you should give it to Matt, because I think picking Mandaloon, I mean, it's how many times is it hard to pick a 28-1 shot race, and the fact that he stole my pick. So let's just go with, I think Mandaloon should. I think it should.
Great stuff, Spencer. Let's move on and talk about these Lone Star races. We start off with race number 6 455 Eastern. We're on the dirt going 7 for these $7,500 maiden claimers. Who do you like in this spot, my friend?
I just kind of went right to the outside. Shimmer. I don't know how you really say it. Raylu and Brett Calhoun just dropping in class. I think when you look back at some of the dirt form, it just fits really well in here with the maiden special weight races at Sam Houston. I know one was in the mud, one at Remington. I just think that these type of races, when you can go back and look farther into a horse's form, I think this one can be very dangerous. I'm going to single to start off and try and get a little bit spicy here because nothing else really kind of reached out to me. I'm willing to take a shot to kind of make my ticket plus EV.
I like it. I like it. I was good. I wanted to say schmear, like, cream cheese, but maybe that's not it. Maybe it's. This is terrible. I could have just listened to an old race call and not be embarrassing myself and insulting the connections. But anyway, the 10 horse is your pick in this race. One of the ones I had on my radar as well. I was going to try number 6. Gage Has a Gray. This one has competitive figures and might have a pace edge at a level where they don't always want to pass. And then I thought your logical number 10. And I was going to use the 5, just a pretty obvious on numbers type horse, should get a good trip. But press the 6, back up with the 5 and the 10 for me. Spencer just taking a stand here in the first leg, singling the 10. Let's talk about race number 7 at 523. We move to the turf, we hope. 7.5 furlongs for this one. 3 and up fillies and mares. 2 lifers this time around. I like number 5, Leah's Princess. I thought could get a terrific setup on the front, facing a much easier group, I thought, than last time. I thought that the 1 and 2 were logical in this spot as possible backups. That's the 1 entry, and the 2, Daddy Made Me Do It. But I thought that the 5, Leah's Princess, was worth a shot. How did you see it, my friend?
I always find it interesting when a horse like the 5 gets blinkers off also in turf sprints, because usually you kind of want, everyone says, late pace for turf races, but in the turf sprints, you kind of want to be forwardly more, as JK says. I wonder what they're trying to do with this horse. So they just want to get this horse to settle and start making one run. I think to me that kind of hurts the horse a little bit. Definitely showed more speed last time out. I think I would have got the blinkers on. That's just me, but he will be one of my picks. And then Daddy Made Me Do It, just the other top logical. I think Steve, first off the claim, just put him on the dirt, see what would happen. And I think getting back on the right surface gets us one in the winner's circle.
Oh, we have the same numbers, basically. Yep. 5 on top, Leah's Princess. It's a fair point. I was thinking on pace figures that she could lead, but the blinkers off is sometimes a sign that they're going to want to take back more. Of course, this is a tweener at the 7.5, not really a sprint, not really a route. I'm definitely going to stick with the 5, and then we both like the entry, especially Daddy Made Me Do It, and then I was going to throw in the 2 as well. Let's talk about race number 8, 5:51 Eastern. We're on the dirt going 5 for these 2-year-old maiden special weights. Spencer, we'll leave it with you.
I'm surprised when I was looking up Robertino Diodoro and Cabrera's stats that there wasn't really many of it. So far on DRF, it's just 2 for 8, below dollar ROI, but this horse comes in with bullets. The last 2 out of the gate, the last one really improved compared to 2 back. And when you have a horse going 47 flat at Lone Star, I just think that shows a lot of potential. Wicked Strong only goes for 3,500. They bought for 15. I think that's a big improvement. So definitely going to go with the 5, and also the number 3 Bro Code for Raylu and Steve Asmussen. I mean, how many times do we see it at Saratoga where Steve just would have a horse that maybe looks a little bit light on workouts or whatever, and then he hits the tote board for 9-1.
Bro Code, the 3, and Simply Wicked, the 5 for Spencer. There were a couple interesting runners I thought in here. The 6 Dare to Fail, $100,000 baby going out for Gustafsson, who does well with the first-time starters. Then there's a Bullet Work as well, adding to the appeal. And then another workout that just looked fast came for the 9 Axel Steel. Fincher, another trainer. This one's got, I'm going to just go ahead and say, spectacular numbers with debutantes. So maybe this is a spread race, as I have it 6-9, and Spencer's got it 5-3. Let's talk about race number 9, 6:19 Eastern, 5.5 on the dirt for these 3 and up filly and mare Texas bred first level allowance runners. This was another race where I was inclined to spread a little bit. Number 6, Stone Fox, I thought fits well off the race 2 back. Got caught wide, and maybe it was too far last time. I wanted to keep in the mix. The 9, Texas Whirlwind, I thought had a chance to be the best speed. The form of that maiden win's working out well. 5 back to the races with a win, a second, and a third. And then Natalie's Joy has the best overall numbers. I felt like the last could be excused, maybe moving a little bit too early, a little bit of a middle move into a pace that collapsed on turf. So I was going to try to mess around with the numbers 6, 9, and 5. How do you see it?
Well, it's good because we are spreading because I have 2 separate horses as well. So the number 3, Lady Fly Like a Jet. This 4-year-old just obviously coming out of claiming races, but Ronnie Craven, the third, had this horse before. 42% off the claim with a $5 ROI. That's all I need. I'm guessing we're going to see improvement. And obviously now in the allowance race, you can't lose it back. So I just think that shows a lot of good trainer intent. Miss MJ coming out of the maiden race. All you need is a 62 buyer to be competitive here. This one ran at 56 in the maiden level, winning by 9 as an odds-on favorite. I think it's going to show speed from the rail and could be very, very dangerous at a price.
So you like it 3-1 in race number 9. I have that right?
Yep.
Excellent. Let's talk about the nightcap. Race 10, 7:20 Eastern. Back to that 7.5 on the turf configuration. 3 and up, $20,000 claimers down to 15. Spencer, how are we going to get paid?
I'm just going to start off real quick with the number 4. I know it's the favorite. I know I've been kind of chalky for the sequence, but Carl Broberg has obviously improved this horse the first 2 times off the claim. I think this one is definitely dangerous. Gets Raylu, who's 20% in the saddle. 5 for 15 at the distance isn't too shabby, especially when you're looking at that 7.5 distance. I think when you can have a horse that can win multiple times at it, I'm all in. So that would be my top pick, the number 4, Antarctic. Number 3, Caruso is my other A. Scott Gellner, solid stats at 17% so far. And just that the last race, the claimer for coming in second, I think this one's going to show good form, nicely improving. 62 last first out on the dirt. Then they get the surface switch and the improvement. I think this one at 5-1 could be sneaky and could really help boost those payoffs for sure.
I was with you on Caruso. I respect the obvious merits of the 4 Antarctic, but I was wondering about the pace scenario. It does seem like on pace figures, he could have plenty of company up there. So as the favorite, I was going to try to beat. Caruso was one of the ones I wanted. Top pick, though, number 11, Valentine Street, I thought could be interesting. With that pace signed on, I was hoping this one could get a mid-pack hold-up type ride and finish past them all. And not just because I'm such a Ric Flair fan, the 8, Space Mountain, I wanted to have in the mix somewhere. Beat the top pick last time. Asmussen claim back. Could be the best closer, could have the race run to suit. And then it's all the same form line. Caruso split those 2 last time. I thought could get a good trip this time. 11, 8, and 3 for me to close this one out. Spencer likes it. 4 and 3. Any closing thoughts? Are you coming down for Belmont? What's your story?
I am not, but I think it's just going to be a bunch. I haven't decided. I haven't really even asked Marshall. I'll ask him tonight when we're doing the Lone Star pod, but I think I might do a little, YouTube thing. I might just kind of have a bunch of us just hang out, kind of make it look like, old school at the bar, just a Redboard Rewind with about 6 of us and just chit-chat in the races, how we're going to do stuff. Super excited. This is the Mini Breeders' Cup. This Friday, Saturday card, it's just unbelievable. And for, I was telling Benny this last night, or Mike, everyone showed up this time. No one's dodging. No one's dipping. Everyone's here. I mean, Monomoy girl, sure. But I think she's still hurt.
She's injured. Yeah.
So everyone who could show up is here. And I think it's just going to be, when you look at that late pick 5 sequence, my God, on Saturday, how are you not 5 or 6 deep in half the legs?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think you just gotta choose to break some eggs. I shouldn't say that. I'm not sure if Monomoy Girl is injured, but she's definitely resting. Definitely not in top form. It wasn't like they're dodging. Hopefully we'll be able to plot a path to get back to the races this fall and back to the Breeders' Cup. We'll see what happens with that one. Wait for actual reporters to talk about that. But I couldn't agree more. Really a highlight card. And some fun wagers with these. This show's coming out early. We normally drop Fridays. With the chaos that's going to be tomorrow, we're dropping Thursday. So it gives us a chance to highlight some of these 2-day wagers. I'd love to do some stuff I'd love to do some stuff, hopefully on the blog. We'll get some extra coverage of especially that 2-day pick 6. And I think that the 2-day pick 4 with the $2 minimum is also interesting. So, and I love that idea. Let us know what you end up doing in terms of a hangout so we can get the word out there. I'm sure a lot of our loyal viewers and listeners who aren't going to be out at Belmont would love to join you for that. So make sure you let me and Tyler, our website editor, In the Money Plus editor, know what's going on, and we'll get you sorted.
You got it.
All right, buddy. Spencer, thanks so much. And when you next see me, I'll be in the Brooklyn Bunker.
Absolutely.
Just a reminder that the new In the Money whiskey is here. trfinc.org/players to get your bottle gifted to you by me as a thank you for donating to the great work that the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation do. 4-year-old rye, aged another 4 months in an apple brandy barrel. That's the barrel you see there. If you're watching on YouTube, you see me tasting from the barrel. It was delicious back then. I actually haven't tasted it with these extra 2 months in there, but it's not going to get worse. It was only going to get better. Anyway, I'm really excited about it. We're going to be shipping them out soon. I know I promised I was going to ship them around Derby, but there was an error printing the label. They're almost ready, and we'll be getting them out very soon. So don't miss out. Order yours today, trfinc.org/players. Next up on the show, we have a new member of the In the Money media team. He's been doing some writing for us over at inthemoneypodcast.com. Here today to talk about one of our favorite bets in racing, the Golden Hour Pick 4 on Saturday. Howard Kravets, welcome to the In the Money airwaves.
Thanks a lot, Pete. I appreciate it. Enjoy the show, and happy to be here and talk about what I think is a very interesting sequence on Saturday.
I love that you have the Alive in the Pick 5 T-shirt. Perhaps we should have gotten you on to talk about a Pick 5 sequence instead of a Pick 4. But good to see you representing the brand out there. Let's start by telling folks a little bit about how you got involved in racing in the first place.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, no one really in my family is involved in horse racing. My father, my grandfather on my mother's side, who unfortunately passed away before I was born, I'm named after him. He enjoyed going to the track with my mother, so perhaps the genes just passed on. But I went to my first time ever at the track at Hawthorne. It happened to be Breeders' Cup Day, 1989, my senior year of high school. I had no idea what the Breeders' Cup was. Just fell in love with this sport, and it's just been great from there. More recently, the last 5 years or so, I've been a lot more involved in contests and stable duel and whatnot, and had the chance to meet yourself and JK out on the hill.
That's right.
At Keeneland in 2019, which was a real pleasure. And so started my own podcast in January, the HHH Racing Podcast, which is going really well. Had Nick Tamaro on last night to talk about the Belmont Stakes Day card. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying it, and it's a great game, and a lot of wonderful people like yourself and Jonathan are involved. So
well, you're very kind. So folks can follow you on Twitter. For those of you viewing, can just see this on the screen. But if you're listening, at H Kravitz, that's Kravets. And then what's the best way for them to find the show? YouTube, iTunes. What do you recommend for people?
Yeah, I'm only on YouTube right now. I hope to get on Spotify and other platforms. But if you just go to YouTube and you search HHH Racing Podcast in the search bar, HHH Racing Podcast, my page will come up. I did my 45th show last night. I'm on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. I've had many great guests on, Michelle Yu, Matt Bernier. I have Andy Sterling coming on next month. So that's how you can find me.
That's great. YouTube. And yeah, YouTube, as we've done more and more stuff over on the platform, is a sort of a hotbed for racing. And it feels like it's a lot of the newer fans who've been attracted to the game since the start of the pandemic seem to be finding us through there. So there's nothing wrong with doing a video platform as much as we love our audio podcasting friends as well. Let's dive into these races. So for folks that don't know, one of the lower takeouts you'll find in the industry, the slightly higher minimums that, as we've discussed many times, we actually believe favor the littler horse player by making the computer group's jobs of arbitraging these pools that much more difficult. They're a chance to have an opinion and get involved. And the first race in the pick four, we got the two different sequences, the pick four and then the double. The pick four begins with race number 8 at Santa Anita. 7:30 Eastern is the scheduled post time for this 1 mile dirt race for Calbred first level allowance types. Howard, we'll let you start this one off. Where did you go in here?
Usually when you go 2 turns at Santa Anita, you absolutely want to be up close. It's very hard to close on that track from further than mid-pack going 2 turns. But this race, Pete, I thought actually has a lot of speed. You've got Petito on the inside that's going to show speed. Then you have some stretch-out sprinters on the outside without Malice and Unmasked. So I was looking for a mid-pack or maybe even closer in this spot because it sure looks like the pace is going to heat up. I like Lightning Fast, the 4-horse for Tiago Pereira and Bill Spar. I realize Sign of the Cross, the number 3, is going to be a big favorite. But when you go back to the February 5th race, they both were in that race together. I watched the replay. Lightning Fast only lost by a length, and I thought got a tougher trip. If Tiago takes back a little bit, like I think he should in this race, I see no reason why he can't go by the speed in the stretch. We don't have morning lines right now, but I'm pretty sure Sign of the Cross is going to be, I don't know, probably 8 to 5, 9 to 5 morning line because on paper he looks like a moto obvious. But I'm going to go with Lightning Fast to pull off the upset, and I've got Sign of the Cross in second.
You mentioned it the same exact way I have it. I feel like Lightning Fast has a few reasons to improve, maybe catching a little bit softer group than last time. Definitely had a trip in there, stumbling at the start and going wide. And it's like we were reading from the same set of notes. I want to see a hold-up ride, and I think you're exactly right that there's going to be speed in here to set things up for this one. And I also wanted some Sign of the Cross. A late runner could be suited by the pace. The thing, and this will be interesting in the betting too, the layoff gave me a little bit of concern with Sign of the Cross, but it's one of those things where in a way, I kind of want to see the horse get bet. If the horse isn't bet, I might worry that it's not the go time or the horse might need the race or something like that. But we'll see. We see it the same. We'll win or lose together in the first leg of this Golden Hour pick four. Let's head up north to Golden Gate Fields for their 8th race. Scheduled post time 7:50 Eastern. We're on the all-weather going 5.5, 12.5 claimers down to 10.5. I like number 4 Torpedo Away in this spot. This horse won when last in for a tag on the synthetic, going turf to dirt, and looked to me to have some of the better closing sectionals on offer. I also wanted to mention the 6 Hot Sean. This one's been off for a very long time, but just based on form and figures, looks to fit with this group. Lots of question marks, and I get less interested as the price gets too short, but one I wouldn't mind including somewhere as a backup. So I had it 4 on the A line and the 6 on the B line. Howard, how did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a spread race here. You have to use several. I think Torpedo Away is a B for me, your top choice. Obviously, the gelding can win, but even though he's dropping in class, his figs really aren't any better than anyone else, and so I'm really not sure about him. My top choice is Strike It Lucky, who might be a little bit cheaper than some of these, but he's in really good form right now for Bondi and Roman. He's going to sit, up close to some extent, and it looks like he's going to get a good trip. And unlike others, he seems to be improving to me, which is an angle I really like in this type of race. You mentioned Hot Sean, who is my second choice. I've Strike It Lucky, the 5, and Hot Sean as my A horses. And I have Torpedo Away and the 7, Color Me Money, as B's. But I have a stat real quick on Hot Sean. This horse, by the way, used to be a really nice horse for Bob Baffert. Steve Sherman, the last 5 years, off a 6-month layoff with the trainer switch, 22%, Pete, with a 39% in the money. So, listen, I think Hot Sean is an all or nothing. This horse could easily win by 4. He also could, be up the track. So I'll let the viewers decide what to do with Hot Sean. But if he can find any form at all from his previous races, he has a big shot as well.
You've alluded to two just general angles that I think don't often get attention paid to them quite enough. One being that idea of looking for those improvers to help evaluate a horse's individual condition when you can find opportunities where you think they're going to run better than in recent races or working up to a peak effort. And then that idea also of rewarding consistent types and then trying to understand the difference between how you bet the all or nothing type that might be more of an include, could even be a press in some horizontal circumstances, but aren't ones you want to necessarily sink your teeth into fully when it comes to building your whole day around them, or maybe a little bit less so in the vertical wagers. Just I always like to highlight some of those evergreen handicapping points as we go along, and I think those are some good ones, Howard, that you brought up on the show. Let's move back down south for the start of our golden hour double. 8 p.m. Eastern. We're on the turf going 6. We've got 3-year-old and up maiden special weight types in this spot. I was boring. I'll go first. Number 6, Magic Man, to me, ran very well on debut when little was expected, setting an unsustainably fast pace before tiring. I say little was expected because the horse was something on the order of 15-1. The Mandela runners typically improve second time out, and I feel like this one doesn't even need to improve, just needs a repeat of that first race to win. And you mentioned when you graduated high school, so you'll appreciate the pop culture reference. This one's not just for Hart fans.
No, and by the way, I don't think enough people are talking about Jessica Pfeiffer. I mean, what an unbelievable meet she's having, Pete. And it's not because she's a female jockey or she's an apprentice. I think she's like 5th in the standings. I think it's great that Mandela has enough confidence to stay with her. He's absolutely the horse to beat. I think he just has to avoid a speed duel with the inside horse, Jedi Master, who I assuming will be a very long price. And absolutely, Mandela can improve a horse off a second time. I've got Magic Man as the lone A. A horse I'm very interested though is the number 7 Lansdowne for D'Amato and Rispoli. Phil D'Amato with maidens first time in this country with foreign shippers, 2 for 3, Pete, 2 for 3. And Rispoli's main guy. I don't really know the quality of those races at Dundalk, to be honest, over the winter. But you have to believe this horse is probably going to close very well. And if the pace sets up, I think Lansdowne is definitely a horse you have to consider. There's a bunch of first-time starters, and I highly recommend, if you're playing the Golden Hour, pick 4. When you're in before race 8 starts to San Anita, you should look at the probable doubles going forward to get some idea, Pete, if any of these first-time starters are taking money. You have finally here the 4 Grand Concourse guy and also the 8 Sirocco. However, I did some stats. I'm a math guy, as you well know, Pete. Corners 1 for 21, first time on the turf with the 3. The 4 Mark Ladd Grand Concourse guy is 2 for 45, first time on turf. And then Simon Callahan is 3 for 38, first time on turf. Those are very low percentages for all 3. But again, highly recommend you look at the probable doubles to see if any of these horses take money. But I think this race is basically 6-7.
Yeah, you make a compelling case for Lansdowne. I mean, the form of those Dundalk races doesn't look like a whole lot, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. Getting onto a new surface, and of course, as we drum on about all the time, turf form shipping west, or in this case, turf blood shipping west, since Lansdowne hasn't actually competed over the green stuff before. But and I love that trick too of looking and trying to look for signs of liveness in the firsters. I didn't come up with anything on them to mention from this far out, but it's not a terrible idea to do that exercise, and depending on what your opinion is, how strong you are in other places, potentially include some backup lines with a live looking firster to get alive to something you like elsewhere in the sequence. A sequence, I should add, which concludes with Golden Gate's 9th race, 8:20 Eastern, going a mile on the turf, 3 and up fillies and mares, first level allowance types. Howard, how are we going to get paid?
Again, it's unusual in certain turf races. Maybe it's just in New York. I'm so used to see them grabbing and going 51 to the half that it's sort of refreshing to see a lot of early speed in a turf race, frankly. Boy, Pete, there has to be a pace in this race, doesn't there? I mean, there's several horses that look like they want the lead here. You got Nina and Fuego wants the lead. I'll Do It For You wants the lead. Lagatha, the number 7, wants the lead. Don't Unzip Me. It sure looks like there's going to be enough pace in this race. Is it Doc Wyko Cheeks? I'm sorry, I didn't watch a replay to see the pronunciation of this horse. Looks very good. This is third time in the form cycle. Looks like the best closer in this race. I'm not sure what kind of odds you're going to get, but I like the form right now for the number 6, Doc, I believe, Wyko Cheeks. And then also I want to mention the 8, Sure Angel, who looks slow, but this would be my sort of price play of this race. If you take a look at Sure Angel, Pete, this horse has been involved in very slow paces. And based on the late time for rating, which is a 97, on paper at least, this horse should be able to close. And again, I know that's an angle you and John the Kitchen talk about a lot. Upgrade horses who have been closing into slow paces. I think Sure Angel is sort of sneaky in this spot. I would use both those horses as A's. And She's So Pretty, the 3, another closer, although a 7-year-old who's never been on the turf, which is unusual, but she is a closer. And then I'd use Nina and Fuego as, I think, the best speed as a B. Again, I think you need to spread here, but I would favor closers in this spot. It sure looks like it's going to set up for that.
Once again, we saw the pace in a very similar way. I put She's So Pretty on top, actually. I know it's weird that this is the first time on turf as a 7-year-old, but looking at the breeding, looking through the pedigree and looking specifically at the Timeform US breeding ratings, this might be what she wants to do. It was her highest rating on the Timeform blood stuff going long on the grass. She's in career form. I love the overall mark, a winning type. And I thought you could make a case that if she does translate well to turf, she could be the one with the best closing kick. But I absolutely respect the idea of Sure Angel as potentially the one who's going to be the best closer. So I was going to try to get out 3 and 8. That might be too thin. I am going to take another look at some of your backups with the idea of getting those in there. Before I let you go, give me a quick thought on Belmont Stakes Saturday. What race are you most looking forward to?
The race I'm actually most looking forward to is the Just a Game. I think the turf races on Saturday, Pete, are absolutely outstanding. I think it's just a sign of how much turf racing is the interest of turf racing in this country now. Huge fields. The Manhattan is also a race I'm looking forward to. Listen, we all love the Belmont. Obviously, it's a great race every year. But those 2 turf races, I'm very interested, but especially the Just a Game, where the Chad Brown Armada is out in full force this weekend. And I think he's got some real special horses running in that race, including sort of a fresh face who just broke his maiden at Keeneland, the number 6. I believe it's Pocket Square. I have to check the name of the horse.
Pocket Square.
For IRAD, I think she could be absolutely anything. 5-1 morning line. Look out for Pocket Square in the Just a Game. But it's going to be a great day of racing, Pete.
What about the big one? I'll hold your feet to the fire. Are you going to join the chorus of Essential Quality folks on the network, or do you have another idea?
You know, I was almost close to taking Rock Your World in this spot. I've always been a fan of this horse. I think he's super talented. Obviously, the Derby is a total toss-out. My feeling quickly on the Derby is that Hot Rod Charlie and Rock Your World at some point are going to hook up. Might be early, might be late. When I say hook up, I don't mean they're going to go 45 to the half, but I think they're going to play a bit of a cat and mouse game. And Essential Quality, I know he's sort of the moto obvious, but it sure looks like he's going to set a great trip, on the inside, saving ground. Brad Cox has always thought that this is the race for him. So I know it's not real creative, Pete, but I'm going with Essential Quality with Rock Your World second, and I cannot toss out the Pletcher known agenda here. I was totally against him in the Derby because, frankly, the 3-year-olds in Florida this winter were not very good. But something tells me, Pete, that Pletcher's going to have this horse ready to go. So known agenda would be my third choice. I'm against Hot Rod Charlie and Rumbauer on Saturday.
I like the inside to outside move for known agenda with his running style, that ability to get a spot forward, not on the lead, but be able to do his thing and grind. And that's how he was so effective. It looked to me when he got good in Florida, and that's what we knew he was going to have no chance to do from that draw in the Derby. So I do think he's the interesting price horse. But of course, as folks have heard, if you have heard our live stream, I'm sure I'll be doing an ad read for it elsewhere in the show, so I won't belabor the point. But speaking of YouTube, where you can find Howard's channel, HHH Racing, you can also find our live stream where Medallion Racing and In the Money put together a fun show where we go over that 2-day. No, it's not the 2-day. It's the 1-day $1 pick six that we
they
did.
They do have
there.
a 2-day pick six though, 20-cent pick six. And I watched the show, by the way. It was a great job as usual with you and Keisha and JK, etc. It was great.
Good stuff, man. All right. Well, we'll be hearing much more from you, and we'll also be reading your analysis over at inthemoneypodcast.com. I should say, before I let you go, I noticed you had some pretty nice amount of success so far grinding away at Canterbury.
You know, Canterbury's if people aren't paying attention, it's a great mid-level track. They've got big fields, turf, dirt. They have some very underrated trainers and jockeys out there. And yeah, so far things have been pretty good. They've had a few days rained off the turf, but the weather's improving. They get over 7,000 a day before the pandemic with the attendance. And I'm actually making my first trip up there in a few weeks, Pete. So I'll give you an update on the Shakopee track. But thank you. I enjoy covering Canterbury.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure you meet our friends over there in the marketing department. And speaking of them and player-friendly wagers, industry low 10% takeout on the pick 5 and pick 6. We definitely believe in supporting it. And if you want to play it, use Howard's column over at inthemoneypodcast.com to help you in your own analysis. Howard, thank you very much. Have a great Belmont weekend, and we'll be talking soon.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Appreciate it. Take care.
Want to remind folks that Monmouth Park's Pick Your Prize contest is next weekend. I'm going to be there. Would love to get a chance to meet you in person and hang out, whether you're playing in the contest or not. But if you're there, you should be playing in the contest. $2,000, but a robust prize package, including Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge seats, National Horse Players Championship seats, and cash, the best ratios around of prizes to entries. And we're going to have a lot of fun as well. For more about the Pick Your Prize contest, go to monmouthpark.com and search for it there, or just, if you Google 2021 Monmouth Pick Your Prize handicapping contest, that'll take you there too, I'm sure. And remember, they have the new schedule. The evening racing or twilight racing on Fridays. Friday at 5 o'clock they start, and then the early post with that pick 5 that they're featuring this year. Win early, win often. That's 12:15 Saturdays and Sundays. I'm actually going to be down there Friday night as well. So if you're in the area, tweet at me, holler at me. Hopefully we can have a drink and enjoy a lovely evening or afternoon at Monmouth Park. Next up on the show, here from Woodbine Entertainment to talk about what's going on in the JRA in general and over this weekend, Klaus Ebner. Klaus, how are you, my friend?
Good, Pete. How you doing?
Things are good. We're very excited about Belmont Week. We're very excited about the opening of Woodbine with as much as you have going on. Have you had time to look ahead to the Belmont itself or any of the supporting stakes on the card the next few days?
I gave it a brief glance, but nothing in depth. It's just been, as you mentioned, pretty hectic around here in Ontario, trying to ensure we have everything ready to go. All of our, lovely government red tape approvals set to go as well. So yeah, certainly that's been their priority. But yeah, I do have an eye towards the big weekend of racing for Belmont this weekend.
But we are feeling good, and we do have a date for the start of Woodbine. Yes.
We do. So as it stands right now, and again, it's all tentative, but let's just hope that's what's going to be. But as it stands right now, June 14th for Mohawk, and then June 18th for Woodbine Thoroughbred.
And any time frame yet on when the decision will be made about the stakes calendar?
I think they're pretty confident with it now. So as it stands today, again, this is all tentative. The Queen's Plate will still be run on August 22nd, and then the remaining of the range of the stakes calendar will still kind of fall in line. So
okay.
It is a little tight. We know that it is a little tight from obviously the start of our meet on June 18th, and 2 months give or take to the Queen's Plate. But hey, we'll get it done, and I'm sure trainers and owners will know that and try to prep accordingly.
I'll be keeping my fingers and toes crossed that I can somehow get there for the Queen's Plate in August. Not sure if that's going to work out or not, but it's a crazy world. We'll see. We'll see what happens between now and then. You must have seen, these horses running in the Belmont well enough to at least have a thought of who you think might win, if not an actual selection. Which way are you leaning?
It's tough. I've probably looked at the race 5 or 6 times and landed on different horses each time. I'm probably going to lean a little bit more towards Rock Your World. Just think he just gets out there, sets a controlled pace, and then holds on. I did have a little bit of a sneaky look towards Overtook. I think it's Overtook, the other Pletcher horse. Adds blinkers and is bred for the distance. He sort of ran in spurts, so much like Known Agenda. He kind of had that same sort of running style where just looked interested at times. If you go back to his Withers wasn't that bad. So I think the pedigree gets winning connections, gets Franco back aboard again. So I'm probably looking him at a bit of a price to kind of plod along for maybe second or third.
Yeah, seems like a very interesting one to potentially go in there underneath, as we discussed. I was wondering in terms of the pace scenario. Excuse me, my goodness. I'm gonna have to cut that. I don't know what happened. Oh, all right. 306. I don't know if you're paying attention, Craig.
Get that man some water.
Yeah. Come on. 3, 2, 1. In terms of the pace scenario, the issue I had with Rock Your World was I was thinking that this time around, Francisco de Ina, the Japanese raider, would try to go as far as he could, as fast as he could, as long as he could. And between that and maybe some ideas that Hot Rod Charlie should be ridden forward, that he might not get that easy lead. I sure am going to feel silly, though, if Rock Your World goes out there and wires him. Horse that I had actually picked on top in the Derby, if I give up on him for this race. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out and what the prices are. I may have a little insanity insurance, one line something running through Rock Your World, but what are you hearing about how Francisco de Ina is doing, and do you think my theory might have some merit?
I think it does, Pete. In regards to the trip he'll have, I don't think he'll be as fresh or as keen as he was going into the Preakness. Like and it may have just been a case of the fact that the saddle outdoors at Pimlico, where he just sort of blew up with everything going on, and just not a typical surrounding that he's used to in Japan or even in the UAE for Dubai. I know they saddle far off the course as well, I believe, at Meydan. So I think he'll be not as keyed up, not as fresh. He'll be more reserved. That's just my gut feeling in terms of Francisco de Ina. I could see him probably sitting second, third, fourth around there. I don't think he'll be on the lead. Again, could surprise me. And we'll see what happens when the gates open and what Santana wants to do. But I probably see him sitting a stocking trip, and then if he's good enough, I think he holds on for maybe second, third, or fourth. Tough seeing him win the race. I will put a few win savers on him just because my Japanese love connection, but that's about it for him. I know Mike Welsh wasn't really happy or impressed with some of the workouts that he had this week at Belmont Park in terms of his gallop. He sort of looked all over the place, but the Japanese trainers do really put a lot of miles into their horses. He definitely will be able to get the distance, but the usual question is, how fast he'll be able to get a mile and a half in is the issue. So.
The old saw. They can all get the distance. It's just a matter of how fast, how much time it'll take. We had a question come in that I wanted to run by you specifically about the past performances. Folks interested in playing the JRA races on Saturday nights, inthemoneypodcast.com. Tons of great info, much of it from Klaus himself. And you can get past performances, but we did have a question about specifically these PPs and what the different symbols mean. Now, you had mentioned to me, Klaus, that you even had a couple of questions about these new PPs coming from Australia, but I thought maybe you could just walk us through at a high level. We're looking at old PPs because the new ones for Saturday aren't out yet. Is there a particular horse that might be a good one to look at, or can we basically just pick a random horse and go?
Yeah, that's fine. We can just stay with this race here as a. For instance, want to look at that 5 horse? We can probably go with that. It's just as an example for Power Bond there. So the thing you're going to want to look at first off, for those that are really based upon looking at North American PPs, is the stats. So trainer and jockey stats, in my opinion, for Japan are key. Much like they are here in North America when you're handicapping, you're going to look at a 12 to 25% trainer a lot more than you are a 1 or 2% trainer. So it's much the same in Japan. So really, the ability shows for the most part in it. And again, much like in North America, you're going to have those bombs that, pardon the pun with power bomb here, but you are going to have these cases where horses do speak up and put in a prime effort. But for the most part, those are the first things you want to look at, being the stats, if you will, for both trainer and jockey. And one thing of note, and this kind of falls in line with Japan, is there's both clockwise and counterclockwise racing, so left or right hand racing in Japan. So you do want to look at the affinity or ability at the track as well. So some of these horses you'll see that may be a favorite, but they may be a vulnerable favorite because they may be 5 starts, 0 wins, no in the money finishes at that racetrack. So I focus on that a lot. There are specialists that enjoy going left and right-handed in Japan. So those are, for me, as a starting point, those are sort of the starting points I look at. How adept the trainer and jockey are, and then how they are going left or right-handed. And then thirdly would obviously just be the PPs, show the meat of the running style of those horses. So going sort of from left to right, you just see obviously the previous dates. It reads much like a North American PP.
Yeah, that part's straightforward enough.
Yep. And then going across, you'll just see the distance. Now, section 1, section 2. So in Japan, they time things a little bit differently. So they time races in 3 furlong increments in Japan. So that's what you see these section 1, section 2. Those are these actual 3 furlong for the most part. If the distances are a little bit shorter than 6 furlongs, you're going to have a little bit of the sections a little bit more different. And I have asked our contacts in Australia for a little more clarity. So that's what we're saying, Pete, about making sure you have some clarity, and we want to do that to make sure that the players are as well informed as possible, as we are as the handicappers for Japan content. So section 1, section 2, then you have sort of running times. SR is really a speed rating, so almost like a buyer speed figure. So what the handicappers in Australia have determined as their speed figure for that horse, for that race, based on the conditions of the race, etc. And then you go through your usual running line. And again, take these with a grain of salt as well, because they do use different markers in Japan. So just understand that, really use this more as a race flow as opposed to, this is exactly where the horse was in the race. And then you'll see the sort of on the turn, which is sort of like the quarter pole before we go into the stretch. And then the FP would be finishing position, margin, jockey that rode the horse that race, and then PP, of course, were the post position where the horse started from that race.
You mentioned about the statistics. So walk us through how these work. I mean, I'm guessing L50, is that the last 50 races, the last 50 days? And then the percentages, I assume that's win percentage in the money percentage?
That's correct. Yes. So it actually is over the last 50 races for that trainer and that jockeys. And then you'll see the last 350 as well. So what I usually do is, and again, it's a lot of work, but I use these PPs to kind of get an idea, and then I also go to the actual Japanese ones that are available on the japanracing.jp site as well, Pete. So just to have a comparison, so the japanracing.jp PPs will show stats just for this year, whereas these stats here will be over the last 50 races that we see here. So again, it's all stats, it's all data that is applicable to the race, and things that can help in your handicapping. At least I feel it. So you're not betting the blind.
There's no way, just looking at this PP, to know which tracks are left-handed and right-handed in that handy-dandy way that the racing form keeps tells you that when you're just looking down at a PP. Maybe that would be a useful evergreen piece of information at some point to do a blog post about, just listing which courses and distances are run left or right-handed. Might be an interesting little piece of content for the blog. I imagine you just know it intuitively at this point, but for those looking to study, that might be a fun little angle.
That's a great idea, Pete. So let's make sure that we do have that in there, and then I'll make sure I bookmark it on the blog to have it available for all the players.
Yeah, very Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, that's just a first introduction. If folks have specific questions, reach out to Klaus. You can find him on Twitter at ZE Ebner, EBNER, or if you want, just holler at us through inthemoneypodcast.com. We'll make sure he gets the message because we want to continue to promote betting on this exciting product. Speaking of which, we got a pretty important race coming up this Saturday night that you're here to talk to us about.
We do, Pete. It's the Grade 1 Yasuda Kinen. This is a flat mile. We're back at Tokyo yet again. And really, this race goes through, in my opinion, Gran Alegria. So Gran Alegria being the heavy favorite. She comes off a victory about 3 weeks ago in the Victoria Mile against her own sex, being the fillies and mares. She was a dominating winner that day. She won this race back in 2020. And the 2019 winner is also in here, that being in the form of Indy champ. But I really think it goes through her. She'd have to stub her toe pretty badly to be upset in here. She won her last race pretty handily, the Victoria Mile. So, for the most part, I think she is the class of the field in here. But, there are others in here that I think deserve a look in the form of, you have a 3-year-old in here, which is something you don't usually see. So, the German connection, if you will, with Schnellmeister. So Schnellmeister is in here off of his win in the NHK Mile Cup. So he ran a pretty respectable race that day, winning by a nose in the Mile Cup against his own age, rather being 3-year-old. So a pretty good performance there. We'll get the services this time of a different jock because Christophe Lemaire will be aboard Gran Alegria. But I'm going to probably take a look at the 4-year-old being Salios. So Salios is the horse that I'm going to be really focused on. Had a pretty good effort last time out in the Osaka High, but that was going 1.25 miles over a pretty tiring and boggy surface, but I think he gets back to what he wants to do, and that's being around a mile on hopefully a firm racetrack.
Just looking at some of the prices, it does look like Gran Alegria going to be odds on between 1 to 2 and 3 to 5. You've been very good at predicting what's going to happen in these tote betting markets, so we'll get your thoughts on if that's going to be if we're going to be dealing with one that short. And then Salios, who you mentioned, listed second line of the betting at 5 to 1 right now, with Schnellmeister out at 12, and then Indy Champ splitting those two at 6 to 1. Does hearing those prices change your view of it at all, or was that pretty much what you were expecting?
Yeah, that sort of rings true in terms of what I thought. It will be tough for the 3-year-old Schnellmeister to really beat the elders here, and there are some salty elders in here. So those three being Gran Alegria, Salios, and Indy Champ will be very tough to beat, in my opinion. But hey, you know what? He gets the weight break. He put in a good effort last time out in a very respectable time. Little over 131 and change for a mile, which is nothing to sneeze at all. So he is a serious contender, and we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Before I let you get out of here, I want to talk about the significance of this race, because this is one of those races before we talked about doing the JRA stuff on the network, and I wasn't deeply into Japan before this year. But this was a race I remember speaking to aficionados about as being one of the most important grade ones in the part of the world, full stop. Does it still have that kind of significance? Tell us a little bit about the history of the Yasuda Kinen.
It does. It really is sort of the premier 1 mile distance race, sort of. So as the players may or may not know, the Japan season is divided in two. So you have your sort of fall, your spring to early summer meet, which kind of is ended by the Takarazuka Kinen, which is a 2,200 meter race, mile 3/8 race, which is, all the best horses in Japan usually aim for that. But if you can't go that distance, then the Yasuda Kinen is sort of the, first goal on the calendar in Japan. So you're going to see a lot of the top milers or horses that just can't go, mile 3/8 in Japan that sort of have, their big shot here. They're all aimed here. You've seen some horses such as, Almond Eye, such as Vodka, and I'm not talking about two of the brilliant fillies and mares we've seen over the past couple of years that have raced in this race. So again, it's a marquee event on the calendar that can set things up as well for some horses that want to go overseas. We have had horses in the 90s that have won this race that went over to Taiki Shuttle, for instance, went over to a couple of scores in France after this race. So it is a stepping stone to bigger, better things, and it is a British Cup winner and challenge race. So who knows? You may have a winner that races in this race and decides to head stateside this year.
That'd be a fantastic story. We'll be following that with great interest, and definitely look forward to your content previewing this over on inthemoneypodcast.com and the supporting card as well, and also reviewing this, maybe particularly with an eye, if you have any information about if we think the winner might take advantage of that win and you're in, you might be able to hypothesize based on connections and logical fit. That would be very cool if you're up for doing. I keep giving you extra work, but I think you're probably up for it. Speaking of Japanese raiders and big international challenges, is there any scuttlebutt that you have heard about there being a Japanese contingent at Royal Ascot this year, or with the state of the world, is that maybe it's not the best year for a plan like that?
Yeah, don't really think so this year. Nothing really stands out for me. I know that they are looking at horses like Chronogenesis and Love's Only You to sort of have some fall campaigns geared towards the Arc, but that's about it right now. I know horses are kind of looking at the Brifois Arc path, but nothing earlier, as at least that I'm aware of right now. But again, I think we can both bend Kate Hunter's ear a little bit too to see if she has any more information. But yeah, she certainly has her ear to the ground, because she certainly, as part of her other role, she's trying to recruit horses for the British Cup. So
very cool. Well, yeah, we'll have her on again soon. We'll have you on again soon. And in the meantime, folks can find you on Twitter at @ZEbner or right over at inthemoneypodcast.com. Klaus, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Pete. Have a great day.
That's going to do it for this edition of the show. I'd like to thank today's guests, Spencer Luginbuhl, Howard Kravets, and Klaus Ebner. Great getting a chance to catch up with them. Thanks also to our founding partners, TRF, Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. You heard about them in one of our ads a little bit earlier in the show. Also, 10 Strike Racing. Actually going to get to have dinner with 10 Strike co-founder Marshall Graham tonight. Excited for that. Always excited to root for the purple and black. Thanks, though, most of all to you for listening, for watching, for supporting In the Money Media through In the Money Plus. We really appreciate it. You make everything we do so much fun, and we look forward to interacting with you more in the future. Oh, one more thank you we got to throw in there. Producer Craig, I had him up early this morning. Much appreciated. Craig, you answered the bell even when I did not. This show's been a production of In the Money Media. Our business manager is Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. I am Peter Thomas Fornital. May you win all your photos.
Just me.